Hi everybody. This is Angie from the Ageless Rebel again, and we have a wonderful empowerment coach with us. She is one of my heroines. I had a seminar with her, and I was so impressed by her authenticity and love, and she really means what she teaches. This is so beautiful. So, the Ageless Rebel has two meanings. One is about the aging process and how we can not grow old but grow. And the other one is about being ageless. And being ageless really is about being our essence, being our voice. And that is what Celia teaches us to find, right? So, Celia, um, if we define ageless as essence, I would think, as much as I know you, you are an ageless woman. Do you think you found your purpose or at least your passion or your purpose? And if so, what is it? And how did you get there?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me today. And I love your mission and your focus. And I love the two-pronged approach that you're talking about how to age without age being the thing that you're focusing on, and how you can just sort of be ageless in your life, but also how you have this sort of eternal soul that is going to continue to evolve. At least that's what I believe, one lifetime after another. So you really can never die. And I think sometimes when we actually realize that or learn to believe that, that is actually very liberating in this lifetime, to just relax and enjoy the life that we're in. But yeah, I believe that purpose is ever evolving. That we certainly are on the planet for a purpose, and that our life has meaning, and that we are born innately with our worthiness and our value within, that we don't have to have anything, do anything, or be anything. All of these things that we've been taught, go get the good job or the good education or make a certain amount of money or get married, or these kind of things are really external to ourselves. And we've been taught that those bring us value and meaning in our lives. And what we're seeing in this generation of modern women is that we're waking up and saying, I did all those things, I'm not really that happy, and I sort of feel like I'm missing out, like I missed the boat in my life. And am I gonna keep being stuck? Am I gonna keep not being happy and feeling fulfilled or having meaning in my life? And so now what? And that's when we really start looking at, through my work with women, soulful, spiritual, awakening women, is to help them awaken to that sort of divine power and beauty that is innately part of who they are just because they were born. And then helping them find their purpose on the planet, at least for this next several years, what it is they want to be doing that will bring them that fulfillment and meaning. If they decide they want to become an entrepreneur, I help them figure out what kind of businesses to create that will be meaningful and impactful on our planet at this stage in history. And then through that, I also help women really step into that leadership role, community involvement, mentorship, coaching, and what all of that looks like when you finally get to the level of like, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, I'm ready to do the work, and I want to help people in a bigger way. So that's my work. It's big, it's great, and I definitely feel like I'm living my purpose.
Okay, so the purpose is empowering women and change the world through women.
Sounds good. Yeah, pretty much.
You have somewhere, you said last time that you would like to get at least 1 million women to be empowered and make, changes happen
Yes.
with female values, right? And
Yes.
I think that is so important. Every one of us can contribute something which makes this dark time in which we are in a little bit lighter, right? The lighter, the better.
Yeah, we need that. I mean, we really want everybody to be waking up. And I think that even though it feels like a dark time, it actually has a lot of light that's coming through because it's waking us up. So many of us have been asleep in our lives and just sort of in a hypnotic state of dissonance and lack of engagement, and just like, you know, individualism, and just being in our own struggle, in our own sort of day-to-day grind, where now we're realizing, you know, if I don't say anything, if I don't do anything, if I don't pay attention to what's going on the planet, it's just going to keep going without me. And if I don't like what's happening, now that I'm aware of what's happening, if I don't like what's happening, I have to push myself to step up and to have a voice and to find my purpose and to be a leader and a mentor on the planet. That's what we're here for. And we're here to do it in a different way than the way it's been done before. So this is an opportunity for women to say, you know, we believe in collaboration. We believe in compassion. We believe in community building. And this is the way to that brighter future, that the way to finding that light, even in the darkness, is to lean on each other and rise together.
So you said before that you believe we are here in different incarnations. So is your spiritual belief that reincarnation is happening, that we are coming back to every lifetime?
Yeah, so my spiritual perspective, I've studied so many different beliefs, and there's not one in particular that is my everything. I really like to study and research and then practice. And so I take a little of this, a little of that, and I find the pieces that really resonate with me. And when I first embarked on spirituality, I started studying metaphysics, and a lot of the connection between science and spirituality, which, if you're coming from being somebody who wasn't raised with religion or spirituality, some of the concepts can feel a little out there, a little woo-woo. But if you go from a place of science, then you really start getting grounded in, you know what, there's this thing called energy that never dies, and that everything is made up of, including ourselves. And the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets have all of the exact same ingredients as we do in our bodies, that we are an extension of this magical force on the planet, this energy, and that we come into different lifetimes in different ways. At least this is what I believe. Of course, everybody can believe what they like to believe, but I do believe that we're here as a never-ending eternal soul, that we're here to do what we agreed we were going to do on the planet in this moment in time, and, you know, make our mark and learn the lessons and evolve the way we're supposed to. And then once we've done that work, we go back on to wherever the other side is, and we transform, we alchemize our energy into a different state. And then if we're called upon, or if we volunteer and we're saying, I want back in, I want to go through this again, we step back into it in a different form, and we do it all over again. So yeah, I'm a believer in that. I don't know that everybody is, but for me, it actually really makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you look at plants, for example, you know, they are a seed that's planted, they go through transformation process, they're birthed, they have this life cycle, then they die, the leaves go back into the soil, the nutrition from the plant, you know, reactivates the soil, they drop seeds, they birth again. You know, it's everywhere we look, we see that there's a continual birth to death cycle, and that's part of being alive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on those beliefs since a long, long time, and I love the idea of reincarnation, especially as I remembered lots of, you know, other me's.
Yeah.
Then you're afraid it's too cuckoo, right? And you just say, you know, I write a book about it. I write a cool fantasy. But then part of the fantasy is really what I believe.
Yes. So, well, that sounds like that's part of your work on the planet too, is really to step into those gifts and to get into your comfort with being 100% who you are, right? And that the people who are not going to resonate with your message or your visions or your experiences, that's okay. They're not meant to be the people who need to hear from you. There might be a smaller group of people, but they may go crazy for you and need what you have to say. And those are the people you should be talking to. Don't worry about everybody who thinks that you're cuckoo.
Yeah, I always feel is that when you feel this inner giggle, when you say something or you put out a crazy idea or something, but you feel it inside and everything smiles. There must be something right about that, right? And I always feel like
Yeah.
people should really always ask, is this really me? Is that who's the voice talking in my head? Is that somebody from my past? Is it society, or is it really me?
Yes.
You know,
These are great questions that you're asking. This is what people need to be hearing because they're going through it alone, and they need somebody like you to share what you're going through so they can relate to it themselves.
So thank you. So if we are in this continuum, for me, the continuum at the moment, because I feel I'm not ready, I need so much to learn. I have so much to learn. I have so much to say. I have so many books to write that I really don't want to die. I mean, at least not in the next 100 years. So that's why I'm doing the other aging part, the physical part, which of course is always mind, soul, spirit, and the body, which has to work together in an alchemical way to make this happen. But I need at least another 100 years, right? So I'm working on that. But then I thought maybe it also is that growing, evolving can be, we just go from one form to the other, not meaning that we have to die literally, but we can die within this life and just become somebody else as growing into another person. So just an old is a weird word, but just a different person, me on a different level, right? So
Yeah, well, that's what evolution is all about. And I think definitely in our lifetime, we're continually evolving if we're lucky, if we're paying attention. And it is a death and a rebirth cycle. If you're really paying attention, that's what you're doing. I mean, you're releasing something that's no longer serving you, or a version of yourself that, was great for you then, really, really took care of you then. Like, for example, for me, when I was in college, the version of me in college, I was very frugal. I was very hardworking. I was very cautious because I didn't have a lot of money, and I felt like I was all that I had. And so I worked really hard to put myself through college. My parents did support me, but the gap in what I needed was big, and I needed to still work while I was going to school. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I would go to the student union for lunch, and I would look at the food they had, and I would look at like a bagel. And this was in the early, like late 90s, and a bagel was maybe $1. And I just remember looking at it and thinking, oh no, I'll just skip lunch. I don't want to spend $1 on a bagel. Because it brought up so much anxiety for me about spending money, and was I going to have enough, and how hard was it to earn that, right? And I was thinking about that version of myself. I was maybe 20 then, and I'm just turned 40 now. And I was really trying to celebrate my 40th very consciously, and like, look at how far you've come. And I had to remember that version of myself and really love her up. Like, that young girl was so anxious, was so stressed out, like, is not who you are now. You're relaxed, you're at peace, you have plenty of money, you make good money, like, you figured out a lot of your money issues. Yet I look back on her with so much love, but I am releasing her. I'm letting her die. I'm letting her go to rest. And I did that a long time ago, but I continue as she crops up in my head with the little money anxiety moments. I go, oh, that's that version of you from many years ago. And you love her. She was a beautiful person, but she's not who you are anymore. You don't need to claim that. You don't need to let her take up space in your life anymore. You can put her to rest. You can bless her, and you can claim this new version of yourself, which is, I am a secret CEO who loves money, who wants money so I can make a difference in the world, who wants to empower women around the world to find meaningful ways to make money doing what they love so they can help other people. And how beautiful that is, that that's where I am now, right? And that's who I'm claiming now, and that's who I've evolved and transformed and birthed into now. So I do believe that you can die and rebirth over and over and over again, and I constantly am in this lifetime.
So when you look back into your past, is there some foreshadowing? Are there points where you say, ooh, then I knew, or looking back, that was what brought me to today, to my purpose and my essence? Because that's important
Yes.
to look at, right? To look at their life like scripts and see what really happened, what brought me to where I am now, and which are actually the script moments which I can take and find my essence with, right? I mean,
Well, I think this is part of the soul purpose work that I teach. And it's really about looking at, because what I believe is we pretty much are stamped with who we are. This is my belief, but we come in with our personality, right? We sort of are who we are from the day we're born. We come through our parents. We're not of our parents. We're not property, as Khalil Gibran says, like, you birth your children, but you don't own your children. And, we come in like, hey world, here I am who I'm going to be on the planet. And we also come from the other side with so much lightness of being and joy and magic, so much connection and ease. And what happens is, depending on who we decided to join in as our parents, or whatever place on the planet we decided to be birthed into, we end up with all these social structures that are in place that start to influence who we become and tell us, limiting beliefs about what we can do, what we can't do. Everybody in our family is a 4.0 student and plays sports, or everybody in our family, goes to graduate school and gets a PhD, or everybody in our family is Christian and we don't like anybody who's not Christian. Like, these are things that start to get placed on us, right? So what happens is we start to see the world through that lens of what everybody else has told us about the world, instead of our actual true essence, our ageless essence of who we are on the planet and how we just came in with who we are. And so my work is a lot about empowering women to deconstruct all those layers that were put on us by other people. And instead of us thinking like, oh, I'm really going to feel good and love myself and find my purpose when I finally get that job, or have $50,000, or find the partner of my dreams. No, those are all Band-Aids. Those are more layers that we're putting on. What we need to do is realize what we're looking for is within us. So if we take all the layers off and we get connected with who we are inside, and really understand the true essence of who we are, we will start to see there's a bunch of patterns. You will look back on your whole life and realize, okay, when I did things that I enjoyed, what were they? When I had achievements, what areas were they in? When I explored the world, what was I curious about, right? You want to start seeing these patterns. So for me, I know from an early age, my parents are civil rights activists. They're social justice leaders. That was put on me, but I also think that's a big part of my purpose on the planet. I also think that's part of what I've inherited from my ancestors. So I do think that's a part of my personality. I do claim that for myself. And if I look back on my life, I'll see I've always been advocating for others. I've always been willing to use my privilege to risk vulnerability for myself, for other people. I've always been in positions of leadership. I've been the one that's raised her hand and said, I'll stand in front of the room and I'll speak. I've been on stages since I was young, doing speeches or workshops or things like that. I was the basketball captain. So there were themes throughout my life of leadership, community building, social justice work, that now I've created this amazing global business and community all around these things. But 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I had no idea that was what this was all going to come together to be, because I hadn't done that inner work. I hadn't done the exploration, that spiritual awakening, that what am I here on the planet for? What is my ageless essence here on the planet? Not what I think I'm supposed to be doing in my life or what I should be doing because my mom said so, or, any of that kind of stuff. So that's the process that I really recommend. And this is deep soul searching work. This doesn't happen overnight. And that's part of why people haven't found it, because they're not willing to do the work. They want comfort. And so they're okay just going to 9 to 5, working the crappy job, getting the salary, going home, watching TV, drinking some wine, doing it all over again. Because if you tell them, are you willing to spend 6 months, 12 months, 24 months of really looking at who you are and what brings you pain, what brings you joy, what could a whole new vision look like? Are you willing to do that? Most people would say, no, don't sign me up for that, you know? And so it's when you finally are at the point sometimes where everything fell apart in your life and you no longer have those things that bring you comfort, is when you finally wake up, right? When you finally find your purpose, when you finally find your connection to spirituality, because everything had to fall apart in order for you to see who you really are. So it's so exciting. I just beg and wish that people who are listening to this will have some sort of awakening, will follow up with me and let me know what they took away from it. Because when you finally take that leap of faith on yourself on this journey, it opens it all up. The world just becomes, you know, you just look at the world and you're like, this is such a blessing. To be alive is such a blessing. To be an ageless spirit on this planet in this lifetime is a blessing. As you can see, I'm very excited about this work.
Me too. When you were just talking, I thought all these should haves and have tos, all the things we follow like sheep, it's really bringing us straight to death. You know, where we then are on a deathbed and say, oh my goodness, I didn't do any of what I really am. So should haves should really be eliminated, right?
They should. I mean, I have 2 daughters, and I look at them all the time, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm allowing them to be free. You know, you want them to be well-mannered and you want them to do well in life, you know, as a parent. But a lot of the time I have to keep telling myself, just pull back, Celia. Stop trying to put on them Celia's way or what I want for them, because they pretty much know who they are. And if I could just step away and sort of keep the container around them, a safe container around them, but give them enough room to really experiment, they're going to be fine. And that's my goal with them, is to not do what most of us do to our kids, of like smothering them and overprotecting them and trying to control their whole life for them. And then they're going through what we all go through later in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s of like the wake up call. Instead, I'm hoping to create a new enlightened generation from the beginning.
That is so cool. I mean, and when we educate our kids like that, instead of putting things on top of them, we just pull them out and let them try things out. They become amazing human beings. You know, it's really true.
It's such a joy.
You know, I look at my own son. It's just amazing to see how wise they can be when they're just 25. I was stupid with 25.
But you were a kick-ass mom, clearly.
Pretty cool, I think. One of the things I'm really proud of, and you know, admit to without any, oh, I shouldn't say I'm so cool. You know, I was a cool mom. So what I also thought is, you talked about wake-up calls, aging, the fear of, oh my God, now I'm 50 or 60. That's a wake-up call. That's such a positive moment of aging, because it makes you finally think, what did I do all these decades? Now you can unfold who you really are. Most people have the time or the money, and even if you don't have the money, it was never a better time to be a self-made guru than, you know, with all the online things. But, you know, with amazing coaches like you, people can actually, you know, go out there and find that what the generations of our parents, of my parents, they barely had a chance to get there, right? They died a miserable death. And you know,
no, we are literally, the women of our generation are literally the first generation that has the opportunity to live their purpose in this way, in terms of fulfillment and meaning. Whereas our ancestors before us had to work extremely hard. They sacrificed in so many ways for our freedom that we're now benefiting. And of course, there's so much work to be done. There still is not gender equality, you know, there still is, you know, different pay pay scales. You know, there still is limited access to women's reproductive health, right? There, we're still fighting for a lot of things for women. However, this generation of women is the first women that are stepping into the workplace, having children, making money, you know, stepping up to the table in leadership, being a part of government, you know, really, really doing things that our ancestors for thousands and thousands of years never had the opportunity for. And when they finally started to see the vision for it, they started fighting for us to be able to have it. And we're the first generation that is not having to struggle like they did at the same levels, and not having to fight at the same level they did just for day-to-day, you know, survival. And so I just really hope that whether you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, it's never too late to have that wake up call and realize I'm on the planet to experience joy, to serve other people, to be myself, you know, that who I am is worthy. Who I am is good enough. I don't have to like learn another thing or get another degree or whatever it is. And your purpose does not have to be a job. Your purpose can be manifested through community work, through mentorship, through volunteering, through artwork, like through anything. It doesn't always, I think part of where we get stuck is we think, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life, and I'm working this job. I've already been here for 12 years. I've already vested into the pension plan. I got the house. I got all these obligations. I'm basically screwed. And what I like to let people know is like, okay, go ahead and be screwed. And while you're screwed, how about you buy a book about something you actually are curious about, or take one class at the community college, or go to one networking event or dance class or whatever, and get out there and activate your life. Like, just activate your life. It doesn't need to be, if you make 50,000, now you got to go leave your job and find a $50,000 thing doing what you love. That's like 5 to 10 steps down the road. What you need to start with is just figuring out, what the heck do you love? What the heck brings you joy? What do you feel like when I do that, it comes really easy, I'm really good at? Like, this is the journey that we all need to begin on. And then down the line, yes, would we like to make a full-time living doing what we love? Absolutely. But if you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be talking about how you made your money. You're going to be talking about, did you have fun in your life? Do you have any regrets? Who did you help? Like, what impact did you have on the people in your family and your community? That's what you're going to be thinking about as you transition on. You're going to be like, wow, I really lived this life. Or did I just do that same thing for 50 years and just, you know, die and never find any passion, purpose, or meaning in my life? Like, no, we don't want that. So just freaking buy a book. Like, start with the book.
Start with, sorry to interrupt, but I just remembered this beautiful video game. It's called The Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
It's very cute. It's very magical. And it's really like life should be. You go through life and you find treasures and power, yes, and then you put them all together, and in the end you are the heroine, right? And
yes.
When I started to look at the word legend, and that was just recently, I thought, what is the legend of me? What do I leave, if I ever leave? But what is it that I actually want to present? Right? And I think the word legend is something so beautiful. People should just take the time to meditate about that. What makes me a legend? What makes me a legend? And then, you know, find the magic to make it happen. You know?
Yeah, and it's like the sister word that I like is legacy with the legend. And I think that really speaks to people of, what do you want to leave behind? You know, do you want to have a stamp on history? Do you want to be known for something? And that doesn't mean like in the encyclopedia book. It means like, you were here. Were you here? Other than, I worked at Hewlett Packard for 40 years, or, you know, I did whatever for most of my life. You want people to say like, she was a great teacher. She helped a lot of people who were trying to figure out what they were going to do with their life. She was very generous and sponsored certain families, for the holidays. Or she loved plants, and she made the most beautiful gardens and would gift people with her bouquets. Like, you want them to be able to tell a story about you. It doesn't have to be like the ones like President Obama's story. It can be your version of your life, of your story, where simple things matter. It could be as simple as she led a joyful life. She taught us what it looks like to be living full out and to be happy and to want to have an amazing life. Like, that's an amazing legacy to leave behind. And that's an amazing legend to be, as somebody who, like, if you look at the archetypes, like, are you going to be like, if you look at goddess archetypes, like, are you going to be the warrior? Are you going to be like the lover? Are you going to be, and I know that's in your book kind of stuff, but like, for me, there's a big part of me that's the warrior, but then I also have the goddess and the priestess, and so I'm always trying to bring in that strength, but I also have the part of me that's the mystic. I also have the part of me that's like the mother that wants to care and heal, right? And so these are all the things that are important, and I know that's a lot of what you teach as well.
It's just like, I had to laugh also, because I always feel I have this sorcerer's power in me, which means, in modern terms, really to manifest life.
Yeah.
And this morning I said, I am getting more into this. I have to every day exercise that I can actually manifest something consciously. And I manifest things that I have thought about something very, very many times, and then suddenly it happens. Wow, cool that is, but it wasn't really consciously made. It was kind of, it happens more like universe has your back intuitively kind of thing. But I just was laughing because I thought, I manifest this beautiful interview with you, right? And
Yeah.
there's this crazy dude out there with his leaf blower machine. And he's like, oh, please go away, please go away. I do not even have the power to make him go away.
Guess what? We can't even hear it. So don't worry. You're good.
I hope it doesn't, like, in the background of this interview is like, oh, like this dude. Anyway.
All good. You know what? My audience, and hopefully those who maybe are being introduced to me for the first time, can already pick up on what you see is what you get. I'm extremely authentic. I love to keep it real. And I love to teach all of my students and community members, to just get their message out there. It doesn't need to be perfect. And so I demonstrate that in my own work as well. And so there's plenty of times that I'm doing videos just in my backyard in front of my trees or whatever. And the gardener will come in, or stray dogs will start running through, and people love it. They just laugh with me, or they'll comment like, oh, that was so funny or whatever. But it just makes you that much more approachable. People want to know that you're a real person. It's not, packaged and perfect. They want, and that's part of this being an ageless beauty, is really just accepting where you're at. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm aging. And so I mean, everybody can approach it differently. But for me, I don't think it's like, oh, I'm aging, so now I become like this archetype of like an older person, and therefore I'm not going to like do, want to take care of my skin or do my hair or put lipstick on or whatever. Like, I'm like, that's who I am. I have sometimes when I'm totally natural, I just put some oil on my skin and sunscreen, and that's it. And then I have sort of an alter ego, which is like my sort of glam version of myself. And I love her just as much, and that's part of being that ageless, rebel and beauty, is just being like, this is who I am, and screw you. Like, if you don't like it, I don't care. I do not care. And I think that's part of getting older, that the great parts of getting older, of just like truly accepting who you are, loving who you are, starting to highlight the things that make you special, and then just saying, screw it to everybody else. Like, if you don't like me, that's not my problem. That's clearly your issues, because I'm fabulous. I love myself. And, it's going to be all right. Right?
So to get a little bit into aging, I think that is maybe, and wrapping it up nicely. So you don't seem to be afraid of aging at all, or are you? I mean, what are you doing?
No, I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. I think that I understand it to be real. And, my ancestors, I come from amazing DNA. And so the likelihood, unless like, and I don't even, my husband just told me last night, he's like, you put too much weight on words. And, it's just interesting because I love words. I'm a communicator, so I'm very conscious of what I say. And sometimes when I say things, it's like, I want to do the like rewind. Okay, that's not what I meant. But what I'm trying to say is, unless something happens that I'm not aware of, that God had a different plan for me, I most likely will be a very, very old age lady, because my grandmother is still alive right now and she's turning 95. I have a 105-year-old great grandmother. There's very old people, but also very young in spirit. And so I think I'm going to be around for a long time. But what I have realized from watching them age is how important it is to be healthy, and to put, your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health as the number one priority in your life. How important it is for women to practice self-care and make themselves the number one priority in their life. Like, that has to be, if our ancestors worked so hard to get us to this point, they did the bulk of the work. What we're dealing with now is how to be this like superwoman, every woman, have it all kind of thing. And how do we do that? And how do we be exactly who we want to be in this life? But these are like high quality problems, like privileged people problems, right? And so I think the part of that we really need to do is take care of ourselves. Like, in all of that work we're doing, one of the number one things to do is, okay, how do I make myself the number one priority, even though I have all these demands and goals and ambition and dependence and all this stuff? If we do not put ourselves as the number one thing on our calendar in our life, then nothing else can go well for us. And in terms of aging, that, I think that's when it gets scary or something to be afraid of. And not that sickness and dying is necessarily so scary, but to me, it looks like there's certain ways to go out of this world, and there's other ways. And I'd like to do it the way of, long and healthy and walking a lot every day, just taking care of myself and loving myself and being as healthy as possible as long as I can.
Yeah, I just recently looked at ageism and all the predictions and judgments, old is boring and irrelevant and weak and all that stuff. So what we as transformational teachers teach people really is to be the opposite of it. And that makes us rebels, right? If they say old is weak, I go next week and learn kickboxing.
Right.
So if they say old is irrelevant, we come to you and we find our purpose and we be relevant. Mm-hmm. So it's always like, say no first, no to that what they tell us is real. It's not real. Aging is not real, not that type of aging where you go downhill.
Yeah.
As I said in the beginning, we don't grow old, we grow and we become somebody else, some wonderful person, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's this whole thing about the maiden, the mother, and the crone, which again is coming from archetypes and also from mysticism. But essentially, as a woman, that there's three very important stages of life. You have the stage as the maiden before you've had children or before you've really entered into womanhood. That's your youth, your typical youth period. Then as you go into being a woman, you step into the mother. Even if you're not a mother, you're still in that sort of mother stage. And then you step into the crone, which is the wise woman, the elder. And in our culture, part of what I'm hoping to work through my work is really that honoring of the crone and looking at her as the wise woman, looking at her as the mentor, looking at her as the cherished and honored elder that we don't just dispose of and go like, oh, grandma, go sit in that chair and watch TV every day. We're like, grandma knows a whole bunch of stuff. We should be talking to her, like whatever we're going through, we should be talking to her about, because she probably knows a ton of resources for us, or has lots of stories to share with us, or can at least reflect to us how much things have changed, since what she went through. And so it's really about owning that stage of life as an opportunity to hand down your wisdom. And that's where part of your legacy comes from, is really starting to say, now I'm in this stage of life where I have all this wisdom from life experience. I really know who I am now. I really love myself. I'm healthy. I'm fit. And maybe I'm 50, 60, 70 or whatever. Now I'm going to reach back behind me and say, who's coming up behind me, whether it's a daughter or a niece or a neighbor, and start to say, how can I help her step into this next stage of womanhood in a more enlightened, more empowered way than maybe I was able to do by passing down this wisdom. So that's why we have to really honor and covet our elders as this beautiful phase. It's not irrelevant. It's extremely relevant. And if we want to really evolve as a planet, as humanity, we would access the knowledge of what our elders have to tell us, because so much in our prayers and our past life work, we talk about the ancestors. Well, the ancestors are here and alive right now, that we can be talking to them and asking them for their help right now before they transition to the other side. So that's one thing to consider as well.
Right. And the new generation of meaning us being elders, we will also be fit and cool elders. It's like sometimes, old people, when they believe in the old paradigm ideas,
yes,
they actually go down and they become sick and weak, but it is in their mind that they think this is what is happening, this is natural, so I can win. And there are different stages of working with aging. You can give in, you can age gracefully, or you can be an ageless rebel and say, hey, I find my purpose and I present that, my essence, and I present that in everything, in my physical being as well as in my spiritual being. Right?
Amen. Yes.
So, and I want everybody to live as long as possible, because I don't want to be alone with 200. So anyway, this, I think, is there anything else you would like to add? I think we had covered some beautiful.
No, I mean, I would just like to say to everybody who will be listening to this in the future that I'd love to hear from you. I would love to hear what in our conversation activated something within you. I really see my role on the planet as an activator. I have a gift with words, and I know that there's magic in them. And so if something I said really opened you up, I just would love to hear what that was and what shifts are happening for you. And I just also want to remind you, like, you are not alone on this journey. There's so many of us around that to find your community, to find your circle, to speak your truth of what you're experiencing, because through that you can find the people that are there to support you, and you won't feel alone on it. You'll feel supported, and you'll be able to step into the next step on this path. And I just believe 100% that you're perfect exactly as you are, where you are right now. So just really that piece of acceptance of, like, that feeling I want, that thing I want, it's actually all within me. And, it sounds so whatever, woo-woo, cliche, whatever, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. We are fully equipped. We come into this lifetime with everything that we need. That, we don't need anything, really. We have so much intelligence within our body, within our souls, that we don't access. And if you can really start shifting to understanding that the healing that you desire is within, the love that you desire is within, the purpose, the connection, everything is within. As we start loving ourselves, our outer world will start to mirror the way we treat ourselves. The people around us will learn to treat us differently, and the opportunities will begin to present themselves that will be aligned with how we feel about ourselves. So you have the power to make the changes that you want in your life right now.
Yes. I always say you say it's all there. I say I have lost it because society poured a bunch of cement over me. And now I'm having a hammer and a chisel, and I'm chiseling it free. That's all we need to do, to just let it out, right? And
exactly.
it is through, you, me, Ageless Rebel work, Celia work.
Yes. And I'd love for them to come see me if it's okay to tell them where they can find me. Would that be appropriate? Okay. I just say come find me at my website because that's sort of the best place to do it. And it's super simple too. It's just my name, CeliaWardWallace.com. And again, I'm Celia Ward Wallace. So if you Google me, you'll find all the different places I'm at. And I know there's the Ageless Rebel community. There's also Angie is part of my community online, which is called the Superfly Sisterhood. So if you're looking to come hang with us, it's a free Facebook group. There's a bunch of us in there doing awesome stuff. And I'm there every day. So you can totally get to know me better there as well.
Yeah, she is. It's really beautiful. It's one of those pages, like communities, where you actually get responded to.
Yeah, well, that's part of what I teach in community building is like, don't create a community if you're not planning to actually spend some time in there and talk to the people.
And you give so much. It's so amazing. So
thank you so much.
for this. And I see you soon.
Okay, sounds good, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.